Hello everyone, and welcome to the Peddling Prince's Podium. I'm your host, John Ardelli. Obviously, I'm sure any regular viewers of this show are going to know by now that I am, in fact, a writer, a creative fiction writer, because I've been talking about the screenplay I wrote based on He-Man and Masters of the Universe recently. I've been writing screenplays actually since the early 1990s. What I'd like to talk on the show today about is one of my writing techniques. I want to talk about it in part because this particular part of my technique seems to be causing some of my friends a little bit of concern, and I felt it was some clarification was in order. One of the things that I do when it comes to trying to create realistic characters is I use a technique which I like to call directed split personality, which basically means I develop a character personality basically in my head that becomes almost like an independent person inside my head. If you think of the brain as if it were a computer, it's almost like another partition in my brain, like another partition in a hard drive, where it's running a whole other operating system, a whole other personality that has access to the other partitions in my head as well. And basically, when I'm writing a scene with them, it's more like it's not so much that I'm writing the scene, but they're writing the scene. It's almost like they tell me, well, this is what happened, and I write it down. Now, people worry, though, when I tell people about this, people think, well, wait now, does this mean that the first thing that I'm always asked is, well, these characters, these are like voices in your head, like those schizophrenic people. You mean like, are these going to take over? Are they telling you to do things? Are they whispering you to hurt people or whatever? I'm like, no, that's not how it works. I know the difference between fantasy and reality, so I know that these people are characters in my head, and that's what they are. I have full control over them, so they can't force me to do anything I don't want to do. Now, the benefit of this approach is it does create a very realistic character, and sometimes it's kind of freaky, really, because I end up discovering things about these people as if I were talking to real people. I'm going to give away a very small amount of the story for the love of Grayskull to make my point here. At one point, the sorceress tells Evil-Lyn about the fact that Teela is her daughter, and that Teela doesn't know. And immediately, Evil-Lyn reacted badly to that. She was angry at that. And at first, I didn't even know why, until I started writing the scene. And by the end of it, Evil-Lyn said, "My father murdered my mother. And I don't understand then why you would deprive Teela of having her mother." And that's basically was her attitude. But until she actually said, "My father murdered my mother," I didn't know that about Evil-Lyn. That was something that came out. Having these characters in your head, it's almost like having an actual person to speak to. And that's what I mean. Like, I could ask them questions about their lives, and somehow the answers just come to my head as if I was listening to someone else speak. Because of the way this works, these characters are undoubtedly extensions of my mind. That goes without saying. But at the same time, they are not me. Like I have already noted by analyzing the characters that their attitudes on things are often quite different from my own. Another thing that my sister brought up, that she was worried about this whole directed personality thing. She didn't worry so much about the Sorceress and Evil-Lyn because they were ultimately, beneficial characters. And so they thought, well, if he has those in his head, no big deal. But she said, well, what about Skeletor? If he's in your head, that sounds like that might be a bit of a problem. And I would tend to agree with her. But the thing is, Skeletor is not a living character in my head. Because in order for a character to become really alive in my head, I've got to be able to understand them to some degree. And I just don't get Skeletor at all. My attitude on him is similar to Orko's. In one episode, Orko said, "Why doesn't Skeletor use his powers for good? Why does he do what he does? What's his problem?" Orko could not understand it, and I'm on Orko's side on that. I don't understand the guy. So basically, the way that Skeletor comes out in my story is the Sorceress and Evil-Lyn are basically telling me what he did in the story, which they are telling me. So I guess you could say it's like as if I went out with Rob and we went out and did something, and then you ask Rob what I did. He's not me, but he tells you, okay, John did this, this, and this. The same thing's happening. I'm not hearing from Skeletor. He's not up there. The sorceress and Evil-Lyn, they're the ones telling me, well, this is what Skeletor did when we were there, kind of thing, or this is what we heard he did, or whatever. The strongest characters in my head are usually the main characters in a story. In this case, the sorceress and Evil-Lyn. And the enemy characters, sometimes they're in my head, sometimes they're not, depends on the character. Like in The Crystal of Truth, the character Jolin, the antagonist there, he was in my head, but the reason being is he wasn't 100% evil. He had some legitimately noble ideas, you know, trying to take care of the people that he rules. He genuinely had their best interests at heart. It's just that he was arrogant and thought that he knew best for everybody and that everybody should do things his way, basically. That's kind of oversimplifying a bit, but that's basically what I think is a lot of cases where the evil comes from a lot of these evil characters, that they just simply feel that everyone else should do things their way, and and when no one listens to them, they kind of force the person to do it their way. They have legitimately good intentions, but just going about it the wrong way. And that's why I don't get Skeletor and why he's not in my head, because he doesn't do things to benefit others. He does them only to benefit himself. And it's hard for me to grasp that, because I've always been of the opinion that no person is an island. You do interact with other people. Everything you do affects someone else. So of course, you're always going to be affecting other people. You can't just do everything only for yourself. I want to make sure everyone is clear that I understand this is fiction. These are not split personalities that can suddenly take over my mind, nor are they whispering in my ear to do things. They're just a tool which I use to help tell a story. And in a way, I guess you could say it's an adult version of having an imaginary friend. Only, unlike a child, which sometimes can forget the friend is imaginary, I'm always aware that these are imaginary people. But that doesn't stop me from enjoying their friendships and also appreciating their help in getting a really good story told. Anyway, that's all I have for this week. Thank you for watching the Peddling Princess Podium. I'm your host, John Ardelli, and I hope to see you all again here next week. Bye for now.